Greetings, all you projective telepaths out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch, Season 2. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Salutations.
Ooh, very classy.
Yeah. Gotta get some class on this program.
Finally. Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 2, Episode 9, Second Sight. Alternate title, Ninth Wife.
Did he actually establish that she was the ninth?
I swear at one point he said something like, my previous 8 wives or something, but maybe my brain just filled in that detail.
After he mentioned wanting to, write as many books as he had marriages, I was kind of on the lookout for if we would hear about, if he hit that goal or not. And I didn't spot it, but I could have missed it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I couldn't come up with a good alternate title for this one. I was just like, Ghost Wife?
It's Ninth Wife, 9th episode.
Oh.
Also, it took me a little while to figure out what Second Sight was referring to.
I still don't know. So what is...
I think it's a reference to Love at First Sight.
Huh.
But now Cisco is falling in love at second sight.
Interesting.
Something.
Okay.
That's the best I can come up with. I think this is an especially inscrutable title.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that right from the start, that it's just like, it's a real head scratcher of a title. Apparently there's a movie from 1989 called Second Sight starring John Larroquette.
Interesting. Is that movie also about somebody finding second love, or
no? It is. I think Second Sight in this context refers to like psychic abilities.
Right. That's what I usually think of when I hear Second Sight. But maybe it's supposed to be like a double play on words or something. Anyway, a quick note on spoilers in case our rewatch is your first watch. Expect full spoilers through this episode, but only an appropriate minimum of minor spoilers for later in the series. Nothing too big, like the episode where Cisco goes back in time to meet his ancestor, Cisco the Rapper.
I'd watch it.
That classic episode. Hearing Commander Cisco sing the thong song was peak 90s. This episode originally aired November 21st, 1993. It was written by Mark Garrett O'Connell, Ira Stephen Bear, and Robert Hewitt Wolfe. Story by that first guy.
That's always seems like a bad sign.
And directed by Alexander Singer. Yeah, I can already tell. You don't even have to tell me. Like, this started off as like a story about Jake getting a new dog or something, and then it morphed into this through successive rewrites.
One of these days, when you do the future spoiler section, you're gonna have to slip a real one in there, and no one will ever know.
Ooh,
except for all the people who've already seen the show.
I mean, I already did spoil the vampire season, so
Suki is mine.
That was an interesting crossover. I think that was even before True Blood even came out. Suki showed up.
Well, it was a backdoor pilot for True Blood, obviously.
Yeah. Suki shows up on Deep Space Nine, and everybody wants her.
Can't get enough. Like Cisco and the girl in this episode, or I don't know, is it like air quotes girl? She's kind of...
I don't know. Okay, summary for this episode. It's the 4th anniversary of Wolf 359.
Oh, but apparently, according to the wiki, the star date does not match.
Oh, no. Writers.
Yep, somebody screwed it up.
Commander Cisco sits up late at night, thinking about his dead wife. Captain Picard, presumably, is out there sleeping like a baby. Jake comes in after having a bad dream, and the father and son share a tender moment.
I think this is Jake's first appearance in a while. I feel.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention that. It seems like he's grown up like a full year since the last time we've seen him.
Maybe they were thinking about, should we really have Jake on the show? Like whenever you have a kid on a show, like you're like, oh yeah, only at the end of the season, and you start the next season. It's like, yeah, only a month has passed since the last episode, and then the kid's like 5 feet taller.
Right. That's why I was reading about James Cameron. That's why he's trying to film all the Avatar sequels at once to avoid what he dubs the Stranger Things problem.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, not like it never happened before Stranger Things, but
right.
That second movie made so much money that I'm sure it's not going to be an issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the third movie is already completely in the can,
right?
And then like the first part of the fourth movie, I'm not going to see it.
No.
I might. It'll probably show up on Disney Plus or something.
I'm sure it will.
Whatever Avatar belongs to. So I might watch it then. But yeah, I was thinking, in the case of Stranger Things, I mean, those kids did grow up pretty big, but it kind of, they're also growing up in the story of the show. So it's, like the Harry Potter kids grew up too.
That's true. Of course, those have intentionally like a bunch of months in between them, but I don't think that. I don't know. Hold on. When did those movies come out? Did they come out a year apart, or?
I want to say they did.
I'm gonna find out. Okay, so we got 2001, 2002, 2004, 2005, 2007, 2009. So close at first, and then you get kind of 2 years in between. But yeah, I mean, so they would have aged in reality about as much as they're supposed to age in the story, so that works.
Right. Well, especially in the case of like teenagers, it's not that big a problem. It's usually like, if a little, like the Walt on Lost, when it was like between season 1 and season 2, he like grew up into like a full-grown man, it seemed like.
Get him out of here. We can't have this kid around.
Yep. Unable to sleep, Cisco strolls the promenade and stares out at the stars. He is joined by a mysterious woman stranger with double pointy ears, and the two start making pleasant conversation about how pretty the stars are and stuff.
It left me being like, man, I hope Jake doesn't have another bad dream and need to talk to his dad, because apparently his dad just took off.
Yeah. He was like, I gotta get out of here before I have to hear another boring dream. But I want to say, when someone's looking at the stars and someone comes up behind them and says, they're beautiful, aren't they? Is just a very annoying cliche. The woman introduces herself as Finna. As in, finna get up on that D, am I right?
No.
Cisco is obviously enchanted, but when he tries to ask her out, she vanishes like Batman.
Yeah, he turns away for a second and then turns back and she's gone. And he's looking around like, I mean, she's clearly not running down the stairs or like across any of the platforms up here in the middle of the promenade. And he doesn't seem like, he's like, oh, I guess she just left. And I'm like, no, if she left, you would have seen and or heard her. Like, you should be more concerned about this.
Yep. It was a little bit of a confusing moment. Like, are we supposed to be intrigued by what happened to her? Or are we supposed to just assume she's like just a mysterious lady who vanishes suddenly? Or I don't know. But Cisco goes to Ops to start his day. First he talks to O'Brien, who's in the middle of some kind of maintenance. Cisco shows his true manager skills by saying, hey, if the job wasn't so hard, you'd probably be super bored, right? Putting that positive spin on things.
Well, O'Brien's like, yeah, I'd chance it, but I feel like that's probably true.
Yeah. Kira takes notice of Cisco's unusually chipper attitude and calls him out when he orders tea instead of Ractigino from the replicator.
Yeah, apparently he's a grumpy Gus in the morning. He like doesn't even speak to anyone until he's had his coffee, his Klingon coffee, which is probably not the best quality to have in like the commanding officer when he storms in and refuses to speak to anyone until he drinks his coffee.
And which I was like, is this supposed to be some sort of clue or red herring that Cisco is like going crazy or something?
Caffeine addiction, obviously. No, it's just he's so cheerful that because of being into a girl that he acts differently. Like Jake says, it's one of those signs of love or something.
Right. Cisco is called down to the science lab to meet a Dr. Sayatic, or Sayat. This is one of those names that, like, even though I heard it 50 times, it just doesn't stick in my pronunciation.
I feel like it was said Sayatek, but it doesn't. It's not spelled that way. So
Sayatic, played by special guest star Richard Kiley. Who's that? Beats me. His top known credit from IMDb is as the tour guide voice from Jurassic Park.
Really?
Which I do remember that line in Jurassic Park where Hammond is bragging. He's like, "That's the voice of Richard Kiley."
Does he actually say Richard? Okay, because I was like, I remember like the spared no expense thing,
yeah,
and assuming that it was someone in some way famous, but, okay.
And when he said that when I was a kid, I was like, "Who's that?" And I'm still like, "Who's that?"
Let's see. Now I'm going. He co-starred in the television miniseries The Thornbirds in 1983.
Oh. Yeah, I looked him up on Wikipedia, and I think he's more known for like Broadway or something. Like he's got some Tony Awards,
2 Emmy nominations for his appearances on Picket Fences.
Oh, I barely remember that show.
I know the name. I don't know anything else about it.
Cisco gets to the science lab, but finds that Dr. Sayatic is in the flux chamber, quote unquote. Dax had tried to stop him from going in there, but apparently you can't tell a terraformer anything. They spend too much time on the Old Town Road or something.
Oh, okay. So he's known to be the voiceover for like National Geographic and A&E biography specials, which is why he fits in the Jurassic Park thing. So that's like the voiceover. Yeah, okay.
That's a piece of the puzzle falling into place for sure.
Sorry, go on.
I mean, he's a special guest star. I'm just a little baffled by why he is a special guest star, but good for him. Good for him.
Was this around Jurassic Park time? When was Jurassic Park?
It was 93, so I guess this was just after Jurassic Park.
So yeah, see, his name's everywhere because of Jurassic Park. There, let's get that guy in here.
He's really riding this career, boosting mention in Jurassic Park. Anyway, Dr. Sayatic has one of the most badass character entrances in Star Trek history, where he's in like the super flashy room, and like the door opens up, and there's all this like smoke, and he like steps out in his like crazy silver suit thing and takes off his helmet.
And we've just been told, like, what, he's in there? He could die.
Uh-huh.
So, that adds to the tension of it.
He went in the flux chamber? Oh my gosh. Dr. Sayatic, a very charismatic yet eccentric man, is excited about his upcoming mission to reignite a dead star. Okay, so I'm not an astrophysicist, but this whole dead star thing, I'm not too sure of.
Well, apparently, the only time they explain it, the science behind it, that part, if you could, inject a bunch of new hydrogen in there, maybe that makes sense, or turn the existing elements in the star into hydrogen. Like, I'm like, okay, I buy that, but the way they're doing it is with proto matter, which we've only heard of one other time in Star Trek. It's the basis for the Genesis device in Star Trek. Well, that's used in Star Trek 2, but they don't explain that it had proto matter in it until Star Trek 3. So it seems like this is in some way related to that terraforming attempt, which at the time they're like proto matter, but that's illegal in the Federation. So I guess it's been legalized. It's the marijuana of the next generation era.
Nice. Well, I mean, if it can bring Spock back to life, I guess it can bring a star back to life. But I was thinking, like, so, stars live for billions of years. And over this time, they're fusing their hydrogen and helium into those heavier elements. Mm-hmm. So, like, all that, carbon and whatever in the dead star is the result of that fusion. Like the fusion of that was what caused the release of all that energy. And like 1 second of a star's energy, like output, is a massive amount of energy. So like just based on the way physics works, wouldn't you have to reapply like the entire energy output of the star over billions of years back into the star to undo all that fusion?
That's a good point. Conservation of energy.
Yeah. I mean, this is like basically equivalent to like collecting all the exhaust out of an exhaust pipe and turning it back into gasoline. Like, I guess theoretically it's possible, but it's kind of counterproductive. I don't know. It was just that little detail bothered me.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, that makes sense.
And like, if you could produce that much energy, why not just like use it to power nice heated houses on the planets.
Instead of, like, lighting up a star, which doesn't necessarily help anybody, especially if, if that star went nova and destroyed all the planets in the habitable section or something, then, well, okay, how is that going to be useful now?
Yeah. I guess nobody must live there right now, because there is that risk of it going supernova. Like, supernovas are very violent.
Yeah.
Like, if a supernova happens in our own galaxy, it's like as bright as the sun. Later, Sisko and Dax are having lunch by the promenade, but Sisko is noticeably distracted. After lunch, Sisko strolls back out to the promenade again and runs into Finna. Sisko takes her up to a docking pylon where they have a romantic time sharing the view. Finna suggests they should come back tomorrow for a picnic, continuing the Deep Space Nine tradition of people wanting to have picnics in the docking pylons.
Yep, on the upper pylons. It's the best spot.
Did Lwaxana and Odo ever actually have that picnic?
No, I believe they got stuck in the elevator with the picnic basket.
But, like, at the end, was there a line like, oh, let's go have that picnic now, or something like that?
I feel like the line was more like, oh, next time I come, we're going to do that picnic.
So the bottom line is no one's ever going to have a picnic in the docking pylon. No. And if you want to, you're basically cursing yourself.
Really, Jake, who was previously asking about, like, what to do with girls, should be taking notes on this.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Jake and Nog could totally, like, benefit from this docking pylon picnic hack.
Assuming that just anybody's allowed up on the upper pylons.
Yeah, true. They might be secure areas or something. Sisko asks Finna about herself, but she can't talk about it. Then she runs off. At dinner, Sisko is again distracted and doesn't hear Jake's hilarious story about vomit.
Yep, that was a good teenager story, all right. It's like, Dad, she threw up. Oh my gosh.
It's like, no, Dad, you don't get it. She threw up. Jake uses the knowledge gained as a pupil of the wise love guru Nog to diagnose his dad as being in love.
Well, I mean, this time Nog seems to be on the ball. So.
Yeah, I know. Nog's got some knowledge, it seems like. Jake seems pleased, possibly hoping this will be the end of his having to pretend he doesn't notice when Major Kira sneaks in late at night. Jake asks to meet this new woman, but Sisko says he can't, because she keeps disappearing.
And Jake gets the weirdest look at this. He's like, my dad may be insane. I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah. I was like, this sends Jake into smile and nod mode. He goes back to his dinner and regrets showing any interest in his dad's love life.
It's so true.
Jake is not seen for the rest of the episode. Sisko goes to Odo, hoping to track down Finna, but Odo is frustrated by Sisko's incredibly vague description that doesn't even mention the double pointy ears. Which that would be the first and only thing I mentioned.
He's like, she was wearing red. And I'm like, well, she probably still isn't. I mean...
Yeah. I'd be like, she's got double points on her ears. Have you ever, in your entire life of living in the Star Trek universe, seen an alien with double pointy ears? That's the detail. That's the narrowing down detail we need to focus on.
Yep. Back
in Sisko's office, Dax comes in trying to get the hot goss on the Finna situation, but is disappointed that there's nothing to tell. But she tries her best. She plays the old, it's 'cause I turned into a woman guilt trip. But he's like, nope. Just don't have anything to tell.
I feel like if you're going to loop Odo in, maybe just let Dax be involved. Curzon.
Later in Later on Sayatik's ship, the not so subtly named Prometheus, the senior officers stand around awkwardly, drinking out of impractical cone-shaped cups, while Sayatik regales them. Sayatik is excited for them to try his wife's cooking. Boy's wife, she sure can cook. Just wait until you try this food his wife made. Gee, I wonder who his wife will turn out to be.
The food that his wife made from his recipe.
Right. This tracks with his character, though.
Yeah. I like that this Nebula-class ship, the Prometheus, was, it's like some Star Trek ship stuff on the inside, and it looks very similar to the Galaxy class, but according to the wiki, it's like not a single piece of a standing set from the Next Generation was used here. It seems like they're very impressed with themselves for this fact, but it does mention where all of these different pieces came from.
Wow. I do want to talk about the sets in a little bit, but
Okay.
Anyway, so Sayatik's wife comes out, and oh snap, it's Finna. Or Nadell? Sisko tries to confront her after dinner, but she acts like she has no idea what he's talking about. Later, Odo reports that he hasn't found Finna, but Sisko says there's no need, he saw her on the Prometheus. That's simply not possible, says Odo. Why isn't it possible, you stupid bastard? Says Sisko. Because nobody's come off the Prometheus since it docked.
Except the Doctor.
Right.
Who is probably not the girl. He likes to cross-dress and disguise himself as
maybe he's a shapeshifter. Maybe he's another Odo. Who knows? But yeah, nobody got off the ship to shop on the promenade or enjoy quarks or have their trousers cut too long by Garrick. So
I feel like this guy is so full of himself and so braggy that if he was a shapeshifter, we would have heard about it.
Yeah. True, he wouldn't have been able to keep that a secret.
No way.
Sisko goes and stands by his Finna summoning window, but she does not show.
Quark does.
Quark, detecting a possibly profitable blue ball situation, shows up to give him a free drink and remind him that the holosuites are available. So I wonder how often Quark picks up a customer by doing this.
Sisko is very unhappy with Quark about this, and he's like, this is not the person I want to be talking to about this stuff. But Quark is like nothing but friendly and polite here.
Well, I mean, he's obviously putting on a pitch.
Well, that's true.
He knows his audience. He's like, the commander's horny. Gotta get him into the holosuites. Luckily, Finna shows up to Sisko's quarters. He tries to get her to explain what's going on, but she seems just as confused. They share a quick kiss, then Finna vanishes right in front of Sisko's eyes. Sisko decides he's coming along on this star reigniting mission so he can finally get to the bottom of things.
Good plan.
On the bridge of the Prometheus, Sayatik laments that after he reignites a dead star, he will have reached such a high level of awesomeness that there will be no new levels to achieve. Sisko goes to his quarters and finds Finna in there waiting for him. Again. Except this time it's his quarters on the Prometheus, but whatever.
Yep.
He calls in Dax, who tricords Finna, and finds that she has no cells, only energy. They take Finna to Sayatik's quarters and find that Nadell is in some kind of coma or something, and dying.
Which I guess happened these other times and no one noticed?
Maybe he noticed, but he didn't want to air his wife's health problems to everybody or something. I don't know.
Like, no doctors. That would distract from my project.
Maybe the Prometheus doctor was looking into it or something. But Sayatik sees Finna and gets upset. It seems that Nadell has some kind of condition where she gets stressed out and goes into a coma and starts projecting an alternate personality that everybody else but her is aware of. So it's like reverse schizophrenia or something. Like, instead of having hallucinations, she makes everybody but herself have hallucinations.
Yeah. I guess so.
Or projects an energy being, or I'm not quite clear what the...
Yeah, she creates this energy person who is apparently exactly like her, we're told, although their personalities that we see seem nothing alike.
Yeah, I have my doubts about that.
It's her brain's way of getting out to have fun when she can't.
Sure. And since Sayatik is such a crappy husband, she's been getting really stressed lately.
Because she can't divorce him, because that's Halanin's mate for life.
Yeah, she's space Catholic or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you were right, looking at the thing about that. He says, my other 8 wives had the good sense to leave me, or blah, blah, blah. So, okay, I think I just missed that the first time.
When I was writing the synopsis, I was like, did he say 8 wives? But whatever. Yeah, so that's good. So yeah, and Sayatik's like, oh yeah, I'm just a crappy husband. frankly, it serves her right for marrying a guy who had 8 wives before.
Well, I mean, he's like, look, they always liked me at first because I'm this big personality. And the first time she saw me, they were unveiling my statue while everyone stood around and cheered me. So I can get how she'd be into that.
True.
And I think the thing is, like, at some point, like, you marry him, and then at some point you figure out that this is who he is, and he's never going to be anybody else other than, like, I love me. I am the best. Look at me. And so... Right. I don't know how you miss that before you get married to him, but whatever.
I think on his end, at some point he's got to do some introspection and be like, maybe I'm just not cut out for marriage.
And he seems like he's like on that page when he's talking to Cisco. He's like, you know, they want to be with me, but then they get tired of me really quick because I'm me, and so like I don't blame them. But yeah, I feel like maybe don't get into these situations. I wonder if they have, like, space future alimony.
I mean, well, not in the Federation, because the Federation doesn't have money, but...
that's true. Good point.
Although, you know, who knows where his wives are from. So back in Cisco's quarters, Cisco asks Finna if she could please stop existing so Sayatik's wife doesn't die.
Well, because she's going to die either way, so it's like...
Well, she is understandably conflicted about this, but seems to accept it in the end. Although she seems unsure about how to actually will herself out of existence.
Yeah, and I thought after their discussion, Cisco gets hold of the bridge, right? And I'm like, I assumed that since she has agreed to do this thing, she was going to go to Nadell and try to figure out, you know, how do I get back in there?
Like just try to like lay down into her or something.
Or something. But instead she's like, I guess I'll follow Cisco up to the bridge and maybe this will work itself out.
Luckily, Sayatik has come up with a solution. He's going to personally fly the Star Reignition Shuttle into the dead star, simultaneously securing his legacy as the most awesome person in history and freeing his wife from the misery of being married to him. So again, I don't know if it was ever established that there was any actual need for him to be aboard this shuttle.
No, I think it's specifically established earlier that it's like unmanned. There's no need for anyone to fly this.
Right. So he's basically just like taking himself out in an awesome way.
Yeah, he's like, if I'm going to suicide, this is the best possible. Like, it doesn't get more badass than this. It's like, have you seen Despicable Me 2?
I do not think so.
So, like, Groove starts talking about like this villain, El Macho. He's like, I think that's El Macho. And this person's like, what? And he's like, oh yeah, he was this villain. He was so amazing. He was like the most macho villain ever. And but he died. And they're like, oh well, that can't be him, right? But he died in the most macho way possible. And it shows like it shows the clip of El Macho riding like a giant great white shark into a volcano with dynamite strapped to himself. And then like as they're going down, he like pulls the pin out of a grenade in each hand. And it's like, that is very macho, but why would you do that? And so it's the same. I had the exact same thing here where I'm like, yes, this is very extreme. And I'm sure that people will be talking about it, but why? There's no reason.
Yep. But again, it tracks with his character. Also, I like that the commander of the ship or whatever gives, I think, one of the weirdest line readings I've ever heard. Where he's like, oh no, doctor, what are you doing? You'll be killed. To where, and then like it cuts, and then when Sayatik is like, all right, you better start recording this for posterity or whatever. And then it cuts to the captain, and I swear he like rolls his eyes really subtly, and he has this look on his face like, oh, I'm so glad I'm rid of this guy.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, I'm sure after you've had to like chauffeur this guy around for a while, you're just like, yeah, I am so done.
Yeah. It's like, thank goodness it's finally over.
But okay, who did we get this guy's name? The guy in charge of the ship.
They said it was like, they said it at one point. I think it was like Prentice or something like that.
Because I was just like Cisco's throwing orders at him, and I'm like, not only is this not your ship, Cisco, I'm pretty sure he like, if they're a Nebula class ship, I bet this guy's a captain. So he not only outranks you in general, but specifically this is his ship. I don't think you get to bark orders at him, but he also seems just very like uninterested in what's happening.
Yeah, I know. Well, so that's the thing is, I swear he only has Lieutenant Junior grade insignia. Let me.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Which is like, why is he? Maybe he's not the duty captain, or he's.
Oh, maybe he's just the guy on the bridge at that moment.
Yeah, he's.
But they call Cisco up and not the captain of the ship. That even doesn't make sense either. But
oh yeah, look. Well, it's hard to tell because he's kind of angled away from the camera. Also, he looks kind of like.
Here he is. His name is Pearsall, Lieutenant Junior grade Pearsall. Okay, yeah.
Okay. So maybe he's.
Where's the dude that's supposed to be in charge of this ship? They better not have put a Lieutenant Junior grade in charge of this nice ship.
No, I know what happened. The captain put him in charge so that he wouldn't have to deal with Sayatic anymore.
That's entirely possible. Yeah.
He's like, how would you like to have your first command, Lieutenant? And the lieutenant's like, oh. And it's like, all right. Just accompany this guy on his mission. Anyway, I'm going to Ryza for 6 weeks. See ya. And you can tell by just the look on this guy's face. He is not pleased with it.
And Cisco's like, stop, do the tractor beam. And Pearsall's like, yeah, he disabled the tractor beam before he left.
He didn't check the tractor beam.
I was like, you guys suck at your job. I'm just saying. It's like, do something. Like, Cisco's having to just stand up here and, like, holler suggestions while this guy's sitting in the captain's chair like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, what are you going to do, right?
Yep. So, not the greatest commander.
I was looking through the list of stars and co-stars and stuff of this episode to look for that guy's name in the wiki. And there is an uncredited co-star list. Broik is on the uncredited co-star list, but the next character on the list is Beakface.
Oh, good. Beakface. Oh, is Beakface that, like, green, lizardy-looking alien?
Green-skinned alien with a beaked face.
Yeah. I notice him every once in a while. Not as much as Morn, which, by the way, I didn't see Morn in this episode, but I think he is supposed to be in it.
Morn, did you show up? I saw somebody comment on one of the episodes from this season. It's like, no Morn sighting.
Maybe he's one of these fuzzy characters in the background here. I'll find him, don't worry.
He's not listed in the starring and also starring bit.
There's a Memory Alpha article that lists, or just, it's the Morn article, but like it just lists all the episodes he's in. So I always reference that. But I thought I like his pictures, the lower decks Morn.
It's the most up-to-date picture of Morn.
True. Necessary Evil. No, he's not in this episode. Okay.
How you gonna have an episode without Morn? I'm just,
I know. It's he read the script and he was like, I don't want to be in this episode. Okay, anyway, finishing up the plot of this episode real fast. So Sayatic dives his shuttle into the star, which seems to be made of rocks or something.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think that's how that works, but whatever.
And reignition is a success. Again, I'm not an astrophysicist.
Right, yeah.
But usually,
it's entirely possible.
Usually aren't dead stars, like, they either collapse under their own weight and become, like, black holes or neutron stars or something like that. Or they, like, explode as supernovas. Like, I don't think they turn into rocks. But I could be wrong.
When I googled dead stars to see if there's anything about that. Apparently there's the first like 3 things that come up are a band called Dead Stars, a poem called Dead Stars, and a novel called Dead Stars. There's no actual star information showing up.
So back on Deep Space Nine, Cisco looks out the Finna summoning window one last time when Nidell walks up. She asks Cisco what Finna was like, and he says, she was just like you, which I think was a lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be, right? We never see anything of her that indicates she's in any way like Finna.
She walks away very stiffly, and Cisco returns to contemplating the stars, clearly disappointed he's not going to get a pity bang out of Nidell for all the trouble. The end.
You missed Sayatek's last words, which were ridiculously overblown, just like him, where he's like, I think I'll be God for a minute. And he goes, let there be light.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. What a guy.
And I love that the wiki is like, Sayatek's last words, let there be light, come from Genesis 1:3 of the Bible. Oh. It's like, well, thank you. That's very useful, Wikipedia.
You know, not everybody grew up the way we did. So.
That's a fair point.
I know people who could not quote a single Bible verse.
Well, they can now, all listeners. If you couldn't before,
yep.
That's probably not the entirety of that.
Genesis 1:3. Yes, and God said, "Let there be light,"
and there was light. Yep,
and
that's the whole thing.
And it was good, or whatever. The Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the deep.
I guess, and it was good is like the next verse because it's. God saw that there was light, and He separated the light from the darkness. Okay, so there's.
Sure.
Anyway,
so something we rarely get, which is a Commander Sisko centric episode.
Yeah, and apparently the original pitch on this one is a Bashir episode where Bashir meets a woman who disappears mysteriously. But when Mark Garrett O'Connell wrote it, it was apparently more of like an adventure mystery than a romance. But I like the description that's like, he goes to all the other people and he's trying to figure out this mystery, but no one else ever sees her. So they all just think he's going crazy or something.
Uh-huh.
And then he ultimately discovers that the woman is in fact a projection by a woman who's abused by her husband.
Ooh.
Which I guess is implied, like emotional abuse of some kind is implied here, maybe. But that's more explicit in that other version.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell this had to be derived from some kind of other story, because just on its own, it's just a weird, nonsensical concept.
Well, according to it says that after the original guy saw the episode, he's like, oh man, I thought it was amazing. And really, they didn't make, like, most of what they changed from my draft were like dialogue choices, which is a weird thing to say since they changed the main character. But
yeah, I mean,
apparently it says that Ira Stephen Bear was on a big thing during the second season where he's like, we need to define Sisko. We need to figure out what Sisko is about. We have Picard the explorer. I might have said Picard the diplomat, but he's like, Picard is an explorer. What is Sisko? And so that's one of the reasons they decided to make it a Sisko episode.
Although I don't feel like I especially know what kind of person Sisko is just based on this episode.
No, I think this must be like the start of that process, because what it says is that they decide that Sisko is a builder and that he's going to stay with the project until it's finished. And so I guess that's where they're going. But it says that this one is specifically in response. They felt Sisko had become too aloof, and so they wanted to humanize him. And they thought that, like, giving him some sort of romance would help people relate to him better.
Yeah, I was kind of getting that feeling about Sisko this season, where a lot of times he's just kind of like generic boss man in other people's stories. Although he had some fun moments, like when he was constantly having to put up with Bashir in that War Orphans episode.
Mm.
But generally he doesn't have very much to do to, like, really sink, for Avery Brooks to sink his teeth into or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they give him like a cool speech every now and then, but I agree that they haven't given him like that much.
Yeah, I mean, like, kind of in that first 3-parter.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking of.
That was most of it, but like after that, it's been kind of like not very much Sisko. So it's at least nice to see them trying that, at least. And then, the other thing I wanted to talk about is, I swear, did their set budget go way up this episode? Because first of all, I feel like the science lab set has gotten way more elaborate.
Well, yeah, there's the giant room or something that wasn't there before.
I feel like just the main area of the lab is bigger. And they have that crazy flux chamber room also. And then, like, all of the Prometheus sets looked like brand new.
They do. And that's what this thing I was reading earlier was saying. It's like, so apparently the wall outside Sayatek's quarters on the Prometheus is a stock Starfleet wall that was built for Deep Space Nine scenes. So that's a wall you're going to see a lot anytime they need like a Starfleet ship. His quarters are a brand new set built from the remains of the runabout aft section seen in the Next Generation episode Timescape, the one where they they come and they find the Enterprise and it's all frozen in time, and Picard draws a smiley face in the smoke and stuff.
Is that the episode that's notable for being the only time we actually see the bedroom in the runabout?
I don't remember. There's a big scene at like a table in a runabout because there's like a bowl of fruit in the middle of the table that like ages and stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember that.
So that's the room that I think it is that they've repurposed that room that they built for that. And the bridge of the Prometheus is a redress of the USS Excelsior bridge from Star Trek VI.
Oh. That looked like a shiny new set to me. Although it did have, it has the two lights down under the view screen that like collide together. And I'm trying to think what movie it was. It might have been Star Trek VI where they have that, but they never seem to meet up in exactly the right place. So like whenever you're looking at the view screen on that ship, it's like watching the DVD logo bouncing around the screen. Star Trek VI is such a good movie. I'll have to watch it again sometime.
Apparently that bridge is going to be seen a lot throughout the rest of the series as the bridge of various ships, Federation and non-Federation.
Sure.
They're like, we've got a bridge set now that we scavenged from like a movie. We're going to use this.
And then that upper pylon, I'm sure that upper pylon area was just like the corridor set, but they put like a big...
Yeah, they stuck like a wall or something with...
Yeah, like a green screen window type thing on it.
Yeah.
And I swear like the promenade looks a little bit more, I don't know, like decked out.
I feel like we got different angles of the promenade than we usually do.
That's true.
That's what I felt like it was, but
there was a lot more like action, or not action, but like, stuff happening on the promenade than we usually see, I guess. So, yeah. And we don't usually spend that much time on the upper level of the promenade either.
Yeah, it's true.
Like I didn't realize there was a little like patio area for Quarks.
Yeah, we've seen it a couple of times, I think. But okay. I specifically remember like Keiko and Chief O'Brien being on that in one episode. But like that's, you don't see it that often.
Yeah.
There's one good bit in the wiki where Ira Stephen Bear, in the end, he was not real thrilled with the episode. And he says, for the show to work, Sisko had to respect Sayatek, which I don't know that I agree with. But he's like, for whatever reason, there was never any current of understanding between Sisko and him. And so he feels like the show fell apart from that angle. But also, he's like, the audience needs to like Sayatek. He kills himself. How many times do we see a guy commit suicide on Star Trek? It was a great ending, an ending worthy of John Huston, who apparently Sayatek is based on John Huston, who is an American film director, screenwriter, actor, and visual artist of some fame. Let's see.
Okay.
He directed many. He wrote screenplays for most of the 37 films he directed, many of which are considered classics today, such as The Maltese Falcon, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, The African Queen. 15 Academy Award nominations. So apparently Huston is a big...
not bad.
A big fella in Hollywood. But so he feels like that this ending was so big, but because you didn't actually relate to Sayatek, that it seems like just some other wacky thing that this guy was doing, and you don't feel bad about it at all.
I have to agree that I did not feel bad when that happened.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, especially the way they played it, like where it was like he was really into it. Like he didn't seem that sad about it. So.
No, he was hyped. He's like, "Oh, hey, I add this to my obituary. I don't trust anyone else to write it, so I wrote it myself." And he's like, "Watch this. This is gonna be awesome. Let there be light." Yeah. So he's just. It's hard to feel bad for him at all, especially since there was no reason for him to do it. If it was like, "Oh no, the unmanned shuttle's not working, and so we're not going to be able to do it," and he's like, "Oh, screw that. We are too going to do it." And he like actually kills himself for his work, which I think is something that happened on Next Generation. So maybe you just don't want to repeat that.
Sure.
But if he actually killed himself from dedication to wanting to see his thing go through, then I might feel a little something, even though it would still seem just self-aggrandizing in a lot of ways, because what is this doing for the world? You reigniting the star, it's really just for you. But it's not that. It's like, he's like, well, really, where else do I have to go from here? I may as well go out while I'm on top. So I don't feel for him in any way.
Yeah, and I never got the sense that Nadell ever especially cared for him or was especially bothered by his death.
Yeah, I mean, she must have at some point, but she really doesn't seem. She seems very unhappy. So I get, I get in the few scenes we get with her, like when they're having dinner and everyone's like praising her cooking and everything, she's just sitting there like not speaking at all. And then
because she knows it's gonna lead into Sayatek like taking all the credit for it.
O'Brien's like, oh, can you give me the recipe? And she's like, I mean, you'll have to ask him. It's his recipe. And then Sayatek just rattles off the recipe. And we spend a weirdly long time on this guy giving us this recipe full of things that we will never, like, we can't cook that. Yeah. So why am I listening to the whole recipe? And then at the end of the recital, O'Brien's like, can you like write that down or something? Because that's not helpful to me.
So is there a way I can substitute items that only grow on Earth to cook this recipe? I'm intrigued.
So yeah, the one other note I had was that they talk about the fall of Kang, this epic poem or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And in the wiki, it specifically calls out, it's like, you might have thought this was about like the Kang that we have seen in Star Trek before, but that one's not dead, so it must be somebody else. True.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of people named Kang.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds like a common Klingon name to me. It's fine. I want to hear more of this epic poem, though. Sounds cool.
Yeah, when I think epic poem, I also don't think like about a guy who is still like alive or was alive recently.
Yep.
I think about like, the Odyssey and stuff.
I went to the Wikipedia article on the poem, and it was like, it was the original intention of this poem to refer to the legendary Daha Master Kang from the original series episode Day of the Dove. However, unknown to the writers of Second Sight, plans were in the works to bring Kang back.
Yeah, he's one of the guys who comes back. He's like one of the old Klingon men, or something, who comes back. I remember that episode. Yep. So I can't believe we already went 50 minutes. You want to jump into ratings, or you got?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump into ratings. I think that's everything that I found that was interesting on this one.
Okay, so you want to go first?
Sure, I will go first. I don't like this episode. And it's another one of those where I'm like, there's some good pieces, I guess, although less so than some of the other ones. Like, I like the idea of we want to humanize Sisko. I like even the idea of, it's one of those classic Star Trek stories that we saw in The Next Generation a dozen times, that we've talked about previously, where mysterious alien shows up, main character fall in love with mysterious alien, mysterious alien cannot stay.
Right.
But in that way, it is so paint by numbers that, like, from the moment that he meets her, you're like, oh, well, obviously this is going to be some weird mysterious alien thing, and she's going to have to leave. And so maybe it's just, maybe if I wasn't so Star Trek experienced, if I was a new fan watching Deep Space Nine for the first time and had only seen this story once or twice on Deep Space Nine so far, then it would have more impact. But we never get to see any of her personality. I feel like not much of it, except her being a little flirty with Sisko. So him falling so in love with her seems kind of like, okay. I mean, if you say so.
I mean, like, there's some kind of shallow stuff. It's like, oh, I love the promenade this time of day or whatever. But yeah, it's hard to see exactly what where a deep connection would be.
Yeah, and if we got more of Nadell, maybe I would also be more interested in oh no, she's dying, we have to save her, but we have to give up the person Sisko's in love with. And I'm like, but I don't care about either of them. You haven't given me anything to latch onto that I really care about. And because we're doing this to humanize Sisko, so far we don't really find Sisko all that human, so I'm not that connected to her through Sisko being supposedly in love with her, which I don't get because we don't see anything that would account for that. So like none of the stakes are that interesting to me. Honestly, the most interesting part to me is Sayatek. Like, he's so over the top that it's hilarious, and I like to watch him when he's on screen because he's annoys everybody, but in this fun way. It's not like Bashir being creepy and annoying people. It's entertaining to watch, at least. And then he's like, now I'm gonna commit suicide, woohoo! And I'm just like, all right, well, that went nowhere, I guess. And I don't think like bringing sons to life is ever going to come back either. So that feels like a big thing that we're also going to throw in the bin. Like, that could have been real relevant somewhere else, and I don't think it ever comes back. So there's a few good, interesting moments in the episode, but overall, I just don't like it. And so I'm going to give it... My only question is, do I go all the way down to Ensign for this one? I don't know that I feel it was that bad. I'm not like, ugh, I hate this and I don't want to watch it again. It's not the storyteller or whatever, but
Storyteller's just going to be like our whipping boy from now on.
Until something worse comes along. The storyteller is bottom of the barrel, and it's going to be our reference for what bottom of the barrel is.
Right.
I'm just going to give it Lieutenant Junior grade.
Okay. You want to put it above or below Melora?
It's going to... I didn't like that one either. It's going to be below Melora. I feel like there is at least more redeeming qualities to Melora. I feel like this has actually been my reaction to several episodes in season 2 so far. Like, there's good ones, and then even ones that I'm like, okay, objectively it might be good. I just don't like it.
Right.
This isn't even like, I don't feel like objectively this one is that good. Yeah. But I'm just like, I don't like it, and it's more of a visceral thing.
So I'm going to try to do a long preamble to my rating, following your style. So, I feel like this is the opposite of last week's problem, where I liked the concept, but the execution just wasn't really doing it for me.
Okay.
I feel like the concept here is totally ridiculous and dumb. And, it's it's like a Riker falls in love with an alien story. Except instead of there being an interesting hook, like, the alien can't have a gender or whatever, right. It's just this weird thing where it's a psychic projection from another man's wife or something. So it's not satisfying on that level. But I feel like there are elements of the show that kind of elevate it. Like, I think the performance from, Cisco is pretty good. I feel like the directing is kind of good in moments. And of course, that Richard Kiley guy is just like, he's owning the heck out of that role.
He really is. You're not wrong.
But it's still not enough for me to say it's a good episode. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a lieutenant. Because when I was watching it, it was entertaining me well enough.
Yeah.
It was just, when it was over, I was like, oh, that's the episode, huh? So it kind of, it dropped it completely out of rewatchable range for me. And I don't think I can go quite as low as Lieutenant Junior grade. Because I know we've seen the potential of how bad things can be. And I'm not going to give it as bad as Melora, which just bored me so much. So yeah, I'm going to give it Lieutenant. I feel pretty comfortable about that.
Is that your lowest this season?
No.
Except for Melora, I guess?
Yeah, except for Melora.
Okay.
That is my lowest.
Yeah, okay.
I'll be on the lookout for a good Lieutenant Junior grade to round out the rankings. I guess you saw someone left a comment. Allison left a comment. I'm sure I'll get she'll comment again if we don't call her out by name. That we should have a 3.5 pip ranking.
I saw that suggestion. I was just like,
I'm not ready to go there.
No, I mean, I don't want to insert new ranks into the Star Trek universe where they're not welcome.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about before that and maybe that was the episode she commented on. I think I may have mentioned it's like it would be useful to have another one in here.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, I can't do it.
Yeah, I think 6 ranks is enough for me.
That right it has a nice separation point where you can put 3 below the line and 3 above the line or whatever.
Although it is technically feasible for me to make 3.5 pips, because I just put into my script like how many pips I want to make, and it makes them. One time I accidentally put it, instead of 2.5, I put in like 25, and it made 25 pips. I was like, oh, that's too much.
Yeah, that's a few too many.
So we'll hold off on that. Definitely we're not getting into admirals, because then I'd actually have to like do extra work to make
create a whole new thing. Okay.
I'd have to like make a thing to make boxes around the pips or something. I don't know.
We'll just, if we ever absolutely need an admiral for some reason, we'll go like 5 pips or something.
Yeah. We'll have a 5 pip admiral. That's the plan.
I have the one episode in my head that's far in the future that's like my top episode of the series of all time, and I'm like that may end up having to be an admiral. I'm just saying.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see when we get there. So we'll wrap it up. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Be sure to check out the description, where I occasionally put links to interesting things. I'm Fletcher. About to say goodbye, or some fancy equivalent, is Data.
Bye.
And remember, every once in a while declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies.
See, once you said it was going to be fancy, I couldn't have it be fancy. I had to struggle and come up with something else.